Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Fixed Ops Focus, streaming live on Fridays. My name is Steve Shaw. I am here with Mr. Dave Rogers, the professor of profit himself. Dave, we got a great show today. How about that?
Yeah, we got a couple great guests. Hopefully we can pump out of them some profit opportunities for our listeners and ourselves. And I got my pen ready to go. I got my pad. I'm ready to take notes. I'm fired up.
Awesome. Well, our guest today is David Securia, and our other guest is Jamie Rellis, both fixed operations experts in their own right. I am excited. I have no idea what's going to happen on today's podcast, which I think is great because I got a question for you.
Yeah, man, hit me.
What's the name of your book going to be?
You can't make this shit up.
I purposely asked you that question because I had a you can't make this shit up moment this week that I couldn't wait to share. You want to hear it?
Yep, absolutely.
So we're in training, right? We're traveling around doing our thing. Craig and I doing this thing. And a service advisor said to me, I don't believe in that, so I'm not going to sell it. And I thought, I know I've heard it before, but you just can't make it up in 2026. Can you believe that? I didn't know that his name was on the sign. Like, I didn't know it was Service Advisor Motors. I thought it was, ABC Motors, the man who spent millions of dollars and employs this guy. And he had the nerve to go, nah, I'm not going to sell that. I don't believe in it. It's not for me to sell. What would you do? What do you think about that?
I think, Steve, you need to get with the times, man. It's not about you. It's about them. And they should just tell you what they want to do. And you should just take it. What were you trying to get them to sell?
It was just a fluid maintenance product. I won't say the name of the company, but okay. He goes, I don't believe in fluid maintenance. He goes, I don't think cars do that. In fact, I don't believe in maintenance at all. He says, all I do, he goes, I believe in what the manufacturer says. That's it. If the manufacturer doesn't say it, I don't do it. That was his line. Can you believe that?
Yeah, I believe it. I believe there's just people out there, but to me, that's just laziness. That's just somebody that doesn't want to sell it and doesn't want to learn anything new, and it's probably getting paid too much salary, and it's too easy for them to make a living this way. So, did you throw them out? Did you grab them?
I didn't have the authority to throw them out, but I got to thinking, right? We always in our training, we will say, is our third step is usually, would you like fries with that, right? Would you like fries with that? Would you like to do alignment? That's kind of our thing. But I got to thinking about this, and I'm like, what are we going to do if we fired this guy? Let's say we moved this guy out. This guy couldn't even go to work at McDonald's, let alone Culver's, right? Because I went to Culver's yesterday, and they not only asked me if I wanted a burger, did I want a double burger? Did I want bacon on my burger? Did I want a milkshake, cherry on top, and some whipped cream? And I left with a $27 hamburger, not a $9 one. And so if this guy can't add an additional item on a repair order, I don't know how he's going to work at Culver's or McDonald's.
Two things. I heard today, somebody was telling me that at Lowe's and Home Depot, that if the guy behind the counter at the, what do you call it, like dishwashers, the appliance counter, whatever, if he goes to sell you a service contract, he has a 14% closing ratio. 14%.
Right.
If you go to checkout, self-checkout, and you check yourself out, it has a 20% closing ratio. So can you imagine that, right? That people are not going to sell, they're not going to recommend things, and you got the kiosk doing it 20% of the time. It's mind-boggling to me.
It's absolutely crazy. I got wrapped up in a lot of research because I'm always doing research, and I spoke to a dealer group earlier in the week, and they said just what you said. The Lowe's, Home Depot are required to present those things 100% of the time. And by asking, they have a 14% closing ratio. So if they don't ask 100% of the time, you get 14 out of 100. So what if you only ask 80, right? So you're obviously your numbers go down, and it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind whether people are doing that or not. Director, can you hear us? I hear. Dave, can you hear me? Uh-oh. I could talk forever. Director, can you hear us? I'm not sure what's going on. So I'm going to keep rambling on. So what's that? Did we lose everybody? Did you lose me? Oh, you hear me, right? Okay.
I can hear you now.
You hear me now, Dave? Okay, we got you back.
Okay. Sorry,
so,
man.
Yeah, it's crazy. If we don't ask 100% of the time, right now we're getting 14 out of 100. If we ask 80, we're only going to get 14% of that. And could you imagine if somebody at McDonald's, at Culver's, or Lowe's, or Home Depot said to the corporate manager, I don't believe in wood screws. I don't believe in this. They wouldn't have jobs.
It's a different world than it used to be. So I had a story I was going to tell you. It was a totally different reason, but I'm going to tell you a story. I'm going to tell you the same story anyway. So 30 years ago, 1996, I'm in a Chrysler store. The company had just gone public 6 months before. We didn't know it in the store that they had signed a dealer agreement and addendum that if the CSI wasn't fixed in our store and the one in Connecticut, that Chrysler was going to null the deal. They weren't going to approve the thing. It was a pending thing, right? But they didn't tell us that. My boss just came to me and said, I need you to get the CSI up. How long is it going to take you? I don't know, 4 or 5 months maybe? Because back then Chrysler would mail you a survey every 6 months, 12 months, or 18 months.
Right.
If you had warranty work in between, they would do a survey then. So you could get 3 surveys. But if you didn't come in for any kind of warranty work, they would just mail you a survey, right?
Yeah.
So we'd have people that, they stopped by one day and there was a rock in the windshield and we wouldn't warranty it, right? And then they get the survey in the mail, right? Or they had 18,000 miles on their car and they needed brakes and they were pissed off about it. So I got this young kid working for me. We brought him up, lot guy, worked his way up, and he became an advisor for me. Really good looking young kid, right? Spanish kid in Jersey City. And I had this girl come in and I used to exit interview every customer. So I say to the girl, like I did everybody else, what can I do to make you give me 100 on the survey? She looks right over my guy, I'll call him Raz, looks at him and says, he needs to take me out on a date. So I looked over at Raz. I said, are you free tomorrow night? He goes, yep. He says, yep, boss. I said, tomorrow night, good? She said, yep. I said, all right, when you get that survey, I better get 100. So fast forward, Monday comes and he goes, man. He goes, I go, did you go out with her? He goes, yeah. I said, give me the receipts. I'll give you the money. He goes, she tore me up, man. She tore me up, right? So true story. Took one for the team, right? Like you always hear about taking one for one for the team, right? Like 2 weeks later, she comes in with a survey, gives it to me. She comes back, she comes in, she goes, does the same deal apply to me bringing my sister's car in? So I happen to be, you can't make it up. And the thing is the difference is that was a guy that was working for me that would take one for the team. All right. She was cute. I'm not saying it was bad. She was cute, but whatever it took in the day. So Felix Razmataz out there, he would never say no. He would never say he's not going to sell anything. And he would never say he did whatever it took. So that's the kind of guys you need working for you, Steve, not these people that aren't going to sell maintenance.
Well, the good news is I have no authority in life, right? I live and die by my smile, and can I influence somebody and make them and get them to do things, right? But you know what? I think on that note, I can't top that story. I can't even, that's a mind-blowing story. I think we just get to our guest, right? People are tired of hearing us ramble on. I think we get to our guest. Why don't you bring in David Securia?
David Securia.
Bring Dave in, and let's get to the heart of this program, talk about how to grow our business.
Let's bring a guy in that knows what he's doing. This is David Securia from Benzel-Busch Mercedes-Benz in North Jersey. Yeah, David's the parts and service director. I've watched him a couple times on a few podcasts. I've seen him. He does a real nice job. He's also friends, Steve, with Lois from Traction.
Oh, okay, cool. Awesome.
So she's a mutual contact in between, and she said to me one day that, David would like to meet you, and I said I'd like to be like David, and we got going, and then we started talking. So, welcome aboard, Dave. I appreciate you coming on.
Well, thank you for having me. I mean, what can we talk about after what you just explained? I mean, there's that's like the golden ticket to everything. What are we going to talk about now?
We could do a series on the stories from Jersey City. I was there 6 years. And I always tell people it was 60 years of experience in the car business, wow. Definitely dog years. And the stories, yeah, if I could remember them all, we could have just a show on that.
That's incredible. That's
true story.
Good stuff.
True story.
Well, David, tell us a story that you can't make this up, or tell us what's going on in Jersey right now. Because
you know what, to add to like, you can't make this shit up. I was working at Ray Katina early on in my career, and I'll never forget the service director faking that a vehicle was stolen because someone left the keys in it. Okay. He took the car from the drive, drove it 3 blocks down, left it somewhere else, and just watched everybody panic. Panic to the point that the cop showed up and he goes, "Oh, are you looking for this?" Looking around the corner, the car's like shit like that. I mean, there's stories forever, but anyway,
I love that.
that's something that comes to mind.
nobody ever left keys in a car ever again, I'm sure.
Gosh, yeah. So bad stuff.
So tell us, Dave. Tell us, give us some us and our audience some things you're doing up there, or things you want to do, some ideas you have. You know, we're ears are open. We're eager to learn. Tell us about
Yeah,
it.
absolutely. So we've been spending a lot of time, obviously, the core metrics, CP hours for RO, and gross profit percentages. But we're really, what we've really been focusing on is RO turn time. So we're watching, you know, from the day we open the repair order to when we close it, right? How long is it taking us? So about 2 years ago, when we started this, average RO turn time 6.5 days. We're now down to 4.2 days. And these are with some really highly technical vehicles. You can imagine there's parts delays, technical reasons, customer delays, and that's on 2,200 repair orders a month. So we're constantly watching that because we know that daily we generate a certain amount of gross. Well, in our 25, 26 working days, if we can reduce 1 day out of that cycle time, we just automatically increased our gross profit. So obviously we're looking at so many different things, but that is really like the key driver right now, is to focus on that. And it helps with our loaner cars. We've got a massive fleet here. I've got 160 cars in our fleet, and that obviously comes with a huge expense. So we've pared that down from over 200 vehicles, focusing on the RO turn time. And I always tell my staff, there's a couple of things that are holding us up. Is it a technical problem? Is it a parts problem? Or is it a customer problem, right? And to identify those ROs that are creeping past that 4 or 5 days, well, we mark them, right? We're watching them, like, what can we do to kind of get them over the finish line? So that's one of the things amongst many other things that we're doing right now.
Well, I'm curious because that's a fascinating topic. Kind of on a similar note. I was working at a Ford store, and we were trying to they were monitored by Ford Motor Company for their oil changes at 3 hours, right? So we got them down by processes, got anything down to an hour and 20 minutes, right? But the biggest holdup became the technicians were in the shop, way out in the back. It was a big, massive Ford store, and the advisors were way over here. And this goes back many, many years. And so I said, well, and so it was really that multi-point inspection wait time, right?
Yep.
And so we were waiting on so on. So it dawned on me, like, wow, that's rocket science, Steve. Why don't we just sell on the drive instead of in the shop, right? Why don't we sell the maintenance work and the air filters and stuff on the drive? And when we started adding all of those, what we call minimum requirements on the drive, all of a sudden, now we got it down to a reasonable amount of time for an oil change. We got it down under an hour. I think 55 minutes was the number, the average number at the end. Starting to look at that. So I'm really curious. So how did you, from a customer perspective, is that where the biggest holdup was, or was it in the shop, or was it, what did you see?
So it's a culmination of things. We do a couple of interesting things. So we're in a downtown setting, so we don't have 10 acres of parking spots, right? We're in this multifaceted area where there's vehicles kind of put all over the place. So to help with our technician productivity, we're staging cars. And what do I mean by that is, we know the next 10 repair orders, we're looking at them and we're saying, look, let's make sure that those cars are the closest they can be to where our technicians are. We're looking at repair orders and say, you know what, that's a known repair. We've seen this before. Do we have the parts for it, right? Do we not? And this is going to be something more complex, right? But I've got a really great staff. I've got 43 technicians. I've got 2 centralized diagnostic technicians that really help accelerate that process and say, you know what, let me do a little bit of an initial diac to move this thing along, right? And then we're dropping it into a line tech there. But some of the quick ways to help your process is, we've got software download centers here. And instead of just downloading software with just your typical Wi-Fi, we've got flat stalls. We leave that vehicle there, and somebody's watching it every couple of minutes and making sure that software is getting uploaded. So things like that to really help our technicians. We have parts runners. I mean, techs are now leaving their bays. We've got pick tickets getting shot into the parts department to make sure that everything is getting delivered. So, you know, we at the NADA Academy, we go through this whole exercise, and it's like, what are the time killers, right? You know, those 6 minutes, right? You know, the 10s, and we're like, we're going. I had all my techs, all 43 of them. Like, guys, just really be honest with me, right? Tell me where the holdups are, right? And it was just like, can we just eliminate 20 minutes of lost time, right? So just, you know, kind of taking a step back and saying, look, there's an opportunity here, there's an opportunity there, right? Something where I invested in, and years ago, I remember when we would have a dead car and everyone's screaming, push car, and there's 5 of us outside.
Right.
Those days are done. I've got a full attachment. I'm pulling cars into the shop, putting it right into the bay, right? Because I'm telling my techs, I'm like, you guys are too valuable to hurt your backs outside, right? Like, we'll do the heavy lifting for you, and all of these things to get these guys productive, right? And keep them focused on what they do best. That's working on cars and not wasting time with all the other shit that goes on. So,
you know, it's funny you say that. I remember, you know, when I first got to the Mercedes store up in Nanuet, you know, the length of loan, the turn time, it was absolutely astonishing how bad they were. Like, that store was terrible, right? You'd come in for an A service and you'd be there for 2 months. They added on and Jamie will tell you, that's where I met Jamie, there was our next guest. That's actually where I met him in Nanuet, right? And he used to buy the cars from you, but bring them to me for service. He did. But the car would come in for an A service, something simple. And these guys felt, well, you know, at the time it was 12 months maintenance, 15 months maintenance. Well, let me check the car out. Is there any TSBs? They do all this stuff, right? And the car would be there for 28 days. And then they were astonished that the customer was giving them bad surveys.
Yeah.
Like, wait, the guy brought the car in for an oil change, and you just told me he bought a piece of crap because you just found 34 things wrong with it, right? They would do every TSB known to man, even though the customer hadn't complained about anything, right?
Yeah.
And in the early 2000s, 2003, whatever, there was a ton of TSBs on electronics, all kinds of stuff, right? But I used to try to rush the guys. I'm like, listen, you need to speed it up. And they're like, you know, there's a high line, you can't speed it up. I said, okay, here's the deal. When you're working on the car, you go as fast as you want. I'm not going to rush you. It's all the time before you work on the car and after you work on the car that I'm going to grade you on. And they go, well, I don't know if that's fair or not. I go, no, that's fair. So you can't stand around and bullshit. You can't stand around and have a cigarette. You can't be goofing off with parts. But I'm not gonna rush you on working on that car, Mr. Technician, but I'm going to beat the piss out of you if you're doing stuff outside of that, right? And, you know, because we were looking at, you know, length of loan back then. I mean, you're looking at length of loan with you, because, you know, I only had 60 loaner cars when I was up there. And, you know, I had 130 at one shop. I still never had 200, the biggest shop I ever had. But, you know, every day, the first thing you did was walk in and say, how many points do I have? How many points do I have with loaners? How many loaners do I have, right? That's like your first thing every morning now, right? And if you are not turning those loaner cars, you're screwed. You're going to lose, probably in your case, let me guess, you know, 2,200 ROs you're doing a month. You're probably doing 1,600 rentals or loaners a month. You're probably giving out loaners, almost all of them, right?
So
80% maybe?
Yep. So only so I have an express service department, which we noticed that people are like, I don't want the loaner. I don't want the liability of it, right? And especially people that are going in and out of the city, they'd rather wait. So we're averaging about 250 express appointments where people are waiting. So yeah, to your point, and we've expanded that too. We're not just doing oil changes and cabin filters and wipers. We're now installing brakes. We're starting trans services and spark plugs. We're going a little bit deeper there. But yeah, I mean, the loaner cars, there's 40 to 50 a day constantly turning in and out of this place. So it's a lot. And I always like to say it's like having an enterprise in your own store. It's crazy sometimes.
You know, it's amazing. It's amazing. There's really two things that come to mind. And the first one that you were talking about, you know, where you're like staging cars. It's almost like you have a triage, right? It's almost like triage before it goes in. And I've heard that for years. I've never heard of anybody successfully implementing something like that. And so I'd really like to hear more about that triage, or how could somebody develop that in their store? Because I know that, you know, a lot of my clients right now are talking about just tech productivity, right? And let's forget about production or any versus objective, but they're always measuring tech productivity, right? They just want to know let's call it proficiency, right?
Yep.
So how do you do that? How do you do the triage part of that? That's fascinating.
So look, in the world of Mercedes-Benz, we're really fortunate that the connected car services allows us to pull some initial data, right? So you can do it right. I mean, we have customers that call in and say, well, my check engine light is on but there's no drivability concerns. We're like, well, did you just go to the gas station? Yes, I did. How do you know? I'm like, hold on, let's run a connected car, remote diagnostic. So our foreman will do that, right? And he'll say, okay, let's go through a couple of these check engine lights, right? And really, the thought is this: our foreman isn't a line technician, right? He's there to help drive production and give technical support. So he's a big driver of that, right? Between our dispatcher, who was a former technician, and our shop foreman, it's just kind of like hand in hand, because the thought is like, guys, we've got to support our technicians to be productive, right? And to generate flat rate hours here, right? So we're kind of throwing everything at it. From not pushing cars in anymore, staging cars. I mean, all of this stuff, but using the technology to its limit. And in our store, we're very fortunate. I've got 43 technicians. I've got 19 Zenji diagnostic pieces of equipment. So it's one for every two. So no one's like kind of fighting for that either. And that helps big time.
Are you doing mobile service? And
Yes.
You got a mobile van?
Yep. So I built a mobile van October of last year. So before the winter set in, which here in North Jersey was a terrible winter. Yes, I've got a van that's fully equipped. I've got a Tesla Starlink on the roof of it, which is connected back to the store. And we're connected to our retail data storage unit. So actually, I've had a lot of great success with independent repair shops and collision centers. If I was to give anybody any advice on that, I've got collision centers paying me $350 just to show up, and they're loving every minute of it, because they're saying, hey, I'm not towing the car back and forth. You're reducing my cycle time. They're asking for post scans or to program headlights, and we're sometimes in there for 45 minutes, right? And I'm kind of staying in my general area. I'm not traveling too far away, and I'm just getting rave reviews on it. And guys are like, this is the best thing that ever happened, right? And we've got our full shop there. What they care about is the diagnostic equipment. So that's been a real big hit for us. I'm averaging 3 to 4 calls a week with collision centers in our area. And I actually just got done creating a flyer for it. So all of our wholesale parts customers are utilizing it, but I need to branch out a little bit more, because it's definitely a great opportunity for us.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we found with I got 3 Mercedes stores, and we use it really good in one of the stores. We have 2 trucks. The other thing is keeping those 1.5 hour jobs out of the shop, right? Because it takes the same amount of time, effort to write up a 3.5 hour job, a 4.5 hour job as a 1.5 hour job, right? You got to move the car, you got to park the car, you got to write the RO, you got to greet it, you got to give the customer a loaner, all that stuff. If you can get those picked off with your van outside the shop, the guys in the shop become more productive, because now they're working on chunkier cars and they're not moving as many cars to obviously for the day. And then we did the same thing. We do the collision centers, we do programming, used car lots, stuff like that, recalls. And you have such a population density up there, you probably don't have to go too far.
No, we don't. And another area where you save with mobile services, look, in an area where you don't have enough parking, right? That's a win, especially for a vehicle. Let's say it's first service. There's no upsell opportunity. The vehicle doesn't need brakes, doesn't need tires, doesn't need any of that, right? We're saving on the loaner car. We're saving on the car wash, right? That's all the stuff that helps us reduce some costs. And I did something a little bit different with my mobile van. It's an EV, right? So I'm not even buying diesel for it. So, which definitely is expensive right now. So that's another win for us.
My service manager, real quick, Steve, my service manager down at Wilmington, you talked to him, Jeff. When we chit chat, he was a mobile guru. Mm-hmm. He would have the van in the parking lot, because we didn't have any parking down in Delaware either, working on cars at the dealership parking lot. He was picking off ROs. He'd have the guy outside picking them off and then just getting them out of there, like they never even made it inside the shop, which I thought was great if you had nothing else to do with the van. Because you're right, you got the Starlink on there, you're connected to the computer. You could write ROs, you could do everything right from the van. It's perfect.
Dave, we've noticed there's times where our download speeds are faster than our shop. We're like, all right, hook up the car outside, right? Just leave it up there, right? And that's just another data point for us. Let it run. So.
That's so fascinating to me. And I'm in the training space, right? So I get the pleasure of working with guys that are pretty high powered like yourself, and I get the pleasure of working with people that are kind of up and coming, right? How did you, like, what formulated your brain? Was it just like natural? How did you get into the mind space? Like I sometimes have to, I hate to say twist people's arms, but I have to, you know, bob and weave and try to get people to think outside the box, right? And the triage and the mobile and all those things that it sounds like you're doing, it's fascinating to me. I love that. And how do we disseminate that? How do we get the people that are up and coming in the business to think like you?
Well, I mean, to give you a little bit of background, actually, I've been with Mercedes for 26 years. My career actually started in the parts department. I spent 21 years of my life selling wholesale parts, collision parts, and I loved parts. I loved all the technical aspect of everything. So I guess I would say that I was always, well, I'm not very handy, so I could never be a technician, right? But technically speaking, I love looking at documents. So I would say kind of being on the sidelines and watching technicians just really struggle and say, like, what can we do different here for these guys, right? So I've always been in, for a big part of my career, and still to this point, supporting others, right? So it's like, what can we do to help accelerate them, right? And look, I think it has a lot to do with getting a formal education. I was very fortunate to attend the NADA Academy, and when you go through that program, and it's just eye-opening when you understand the business and having a real foundational education with also being in the industry for so long. It's just like, you just ask yourself, like, can't we do something different here, right? Can't we operate in a different way? So look, I like technology. I love being in the shop. My day starts in the shop. I love being with those guys. And it's just, I love to see guys grow and have an opportunity to have a real great living doing this, because that's what it's done for me. So I would say that it's what we're supposed to do, right? If we're in a leadership role, we've got to do it. Dave's in a leadership role. You're training on. It's like, this is what we're supposed to do. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Dave, why don't we bring Jamie in for a little bit, and then we'll we'll talk to Jamie for a bit, and then we'll bring back David, and we'll kind of a roundtable.
Cool. All right, great.
Thanks, David, appreciate it. I think it's fascinating, man. I'm loving every bit of this triage. I love people thinking outside the box. It's pretty fascinating. I think our next guest is the most outside the box thinker I've ever met.
Oh yeah, this guy's off the hook, crazy. So welcome my good friend and acquaintance for probably 30 years now, a little over 20 some years, 25 years. Jamie Rellis from Dealer Focus. He's a serial entrepreneur. When I met him, I did meet him back at that Nanuet Mercedes-Benz store. It's a funny story. One day, if we have time, maybe we'll tell it before we leave here. This cocky Irish dude come and walk into my store. But you know what the first thing he said to me, Steve? Honestly, the first thing he said, walked in, I had no idea who he was, whatever. Walks in, pops his head in my office. He goes, "You're new here, right?" I go, 6 months. He goes, "You're doing good things." He goes, "This place used to suck. It doesn't suck as bad as it used to." He goes, "I'll stop by and see you one day." And then he leaves. That was it. I was like, this guy's trying to sell me something. I didn't believe a word he said.
Well, you know what Jamie said to me when I first met him, right? We know that story, right?
Oh, come on, you guys.
Maybe we're going out of business in 6 months.
You do training? Yeah, you'll be out of business in a year.
Yeah. AI is going to put you out of business.
Yeah, it's going to put you out of business.
Well, what I learned a long time ago is when Jamie's in Las Vegas, you can't believe or talk a word he says, right? So he gets, for some reason, there's this nuclear interference with his brain, and it just doesn't work right when he's out there. So
usually because I'm losing on the tables, but there you have it.
So Jamie Rellis, welcome to the show. Serial entrepreneur, co-owner of Dealer Focus, probably plus 10 other companies that we don't even know about. So how you doing, man? What's going on?
Doing great. Well, thank you for having me on. It's exciting to hear Dave Securia from Benzel-Busch. And everything he says just resonated with me. Is our business is all about process management, processes. And frankly, the most successful dealerships in the world, in my humble opinion, have regimented processes that people should stick with. And that is supported by training and effective, ethical thinking, etc. Dealer Focus is a call center at heart, has been around for 12 years. So we've watched the evolution of the call center business. And the reason that the call center was successful for so long is because, frankly, with COVID and even before COVID, no one really answered the phones. It continues to be a problem to this minute. in service departments throughout the country, in dealerships throughout the country. And today, it's no longer a game because we are now being compared to Amazon, Uber. So when a customer calls into your dealership today, they're expecting, number one, to be taken care of. Number two, to have an experience like, let's say, they're used to in buying goods online or anything else for that matter. And one of the things that Dave said earlier, or let's just talk about it, AI. AI is here. It's here to stay. And I personally believe that, AI is consistent at best. And frankly, you don't lose opportunities. And if you don't pick up the phone, well, guess what? Human behavior, it lacks inconsistencies. It's not consistent across the board. For example, when a guest calls into your dealership and a service advisor picks it up, does he ask that guest every time, hey, would you like your vehicle appraised while it's in for service today? I mean, that just doesn't happen. And frankly, when it comes into that, for that matter, does the service advisor have the agility or the ability to think through what's happening on the phone? Would he know that that customer's vehicle is involved in a safety recall? So does he say on every call, hey, is your vehicle involved in a safety recall, or does it even know it? And can he add that as a line, potentially upselling, without upselling? The fact is that our processes are genuinely flawed, and AI is here to stay. And I'm not saying anything other than, the human spirit is definitely required. It's not going anywhere. And frankly, it needs to stay in place because the human element is really what's key, especially when, your technicians are spending so much time videoing the customer's vehicle, sending the video out to the guest for his review and comment. And then there's, quite frankly, not very many AIs. Like, no two AIs are alike, and we support a lot of them, whether it's Numa, Blink, Toma, Mia, Alpha Drive, all of them. We support them all. There's all of our dealerships that have our human interaction at some point or another put their toe into the water. And frankly, there's great benefits to both. And I'm not suggesting that any dealership consider replacing the human element with AI and AI alone, but a hybrid solution is worthwhile.
That's funny you said that. It's because I heard a couple best practices yesterday, and I'm not going to get too terribly into the weeds with them, but I started working on it. And look, I would consider myself a novice, maybe a little bit better than most with AI. So I use Claude Cowork, and I do a lot of writing and research and so on. But what I discovered is, it just recently is, if I can use my AI and in conjunction with, with my skills, right, then it's going to be better. So I'm thinking, as you're talking about BDC, as you're talking about, hybrid version of that, that's the best, is right where the AI is helping us, utilizing the AI as a selling tool for those service advisors. Because I had a group yesterday say, and some of them do really good. As a Mazdasaur, they really do a good job. But I asked the manager, I go, can you for certain tell me you're doing this 100% of the time? And he goes, well, we do a good job, but we're probably 75%. So there's a loss right there. And that's where I was looking at the AI as the support mechanism.
Well, AI should eliminate repetitive work, like repetitive tasks. They shouldn't replace valuable employees. Like, service advisors should be spending their time building relationships with their customers. They should be selling maintenance packages. They should be, explaining the repairs that are going on with their vehicles. They should be creating trust with their customers. That's their primary responsibility. They shouldn't be tied up, can I schedule an oil change for you? What time are you open till? What's the last time I could drop my car off until, do you guys have a loaner car? And again, we're talking about loaner car fleets of 200 cars. That's unheard of. But, when you think about it, it's real. But, if you have an AI assistant that answers the phone, 40% of that light work goes away. But a blended solution and escalations need to be focused on more so now than ever before, because once a dealer gets into the weeds about AI and this AI and that AI, everybody thinks, oh yeah, I got something, until they look at the dropped call rate, until they figure out that their customers they don't like it. They don't necessarily like it all the time. Or they get basically a bad product, or it's not properly installed, or it's not dialed in. These are all the pitfalls that are genuinely out there like giant craters in front of you, and they're there, and people fall into them all the time.
Well, that's one of the things I bring up all the time is, everyone wants that technology that they just turn it on and walk away and never pay attention. And that's not what AI is. AI is like, again, I talk about a little child, a baby, a new employee. It's got to be coached, it's got to be trained. You have to be on top of it. Our partner in a lot of our dealers are based on the phone being answered by AI or the human, right? So what Jamie's been good at is working with my stores. If the AI is turned on and there's hangups, there's disconnects, somebody calls that customer, right? You got disconnected, right? And I can't depend on my service managers to do it, to be honest with you. And listen, if you don't have a BDC and you don't have outbound calls and you don't have the staffing for it, you got to figure out a way around this, right? You can't just go, oh, that AI sucks. People keep hanging up on it. Well, they were hanging up when no one answered the phone before you had AI, and I love how everyone's a genius and they're Monday morning quarterbacks on everything. But, I heard and I don't know if it's true or not, you hear the podcast where they say CDK says that, the average hold time on the phone in a dealership is 9 minutes. I think I'm a very skeptical person. CDK can't build a DMS. They can't build a reporting tool. Somehow they can tell you how long someone's on hold for on the phone, right? And then if Sam or one of the guys on the podcast ever said that to me, I'd say, yeah, you're on hold for 9 minutes because I was trying to get my system to reboot and get CDK to come up. That's why you're on hold for 9 minutes. But there is a problem. There's probably some smidget of truth in there. I just don't believe that that's necessarily a true stat. I think that they just blowing smoke up their ass to sell their phone system. So,
and I can unequivocally tell you that nobody in their right mind is on hold for 9 minutes with anyone.
That's my point. No one's going to wait that long, right? I won't watch a 45-second video. It's too long, right? And I'm going to be on hold for 9 minutes. Come on.
They say 85% of statistics are made up on the spot, and 95% of people believe them, whether they're truthful or not.
That sounds right.
I look at it like this: the core fundamentals. We, as car dealers and car dealerships across the country, are fulfilling three things: selling cars, servicing vehicles, and selling parts. And frankly, what AI is good at is appointment scheduling. What it's really good at is understanding when the guest inquiry comes in, what recalls are directly affecting that vehicle, what pre-programmed responses are built in, such as, would you like your vehicle appraised at the time while it's in at the shop, which creates a lead for sales, etc. But then, it gets into this whole gray area of texting, and who's communicating with who. And let's talk about the other giant pit standing in front of most dealers, and that's who's texting, what platform. Oh, it's another dashboard. And another vendor walks into your dealership and says, oh, I've got the greatest tool since sliced bread. But guess what? It's a new dashboard. That's the last thing a service advisor wants to hear. He's got trouble enough handling CDK, Reynolds & Reynolds, Techion, whatever it may be, work in progress, yesterday's open repair order, the vehicle that's out, the rental that's out for 4 days when it should have been back 2 days ago. Think about that.
You're forgetting the 55 emails he gets from the factory rep or the customer service people asking you questions about cars in your shop, right? That's the thing. The factory micromanaging these managers sometimes. It's right. They don't need another dashboard. They're in enough dashboards.
Well, plus the manufacturer requires you to say, or they want you to be able to do an oil change in under an hour and use specific terms when you're talking to the guest about accelerated services or whatever else that's out there. For me personally, I just believe, oh my goodness, if we have to start thinking about all the rules, let's be very clear. The first line of defense in your dealership is what? Your phones. And they need your immediate attention, your undivided attention, and they're providing more opportunity, or should I say lost opportunities, because of the laziness of service advisors. No offense to any service advisor watching this podcast or listening to it. But frankly, when you call into a dealership a couple of times and they just don't call you back, what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I'm working with this store and they use a software program, and the software program has to follow the manufacturer's guidelines, which when it comes to sales and their process, we're talking multi-point inspection video. They're saying make these 3 to 5 minute videos. We teach behavior. So we have to, and so we know Dave and I have been piloting this, like you got to get it down to 30 seconds, maybe a minute. But now I have to change my process, which works, so that it fits this software, so the dealer gets graded appropriately by the manufacturer. It's ridiculous. Instead of doing what works, we got to follow some antiquated, thing from years ago. It's amazing. It's amazing you say that.
Or you think about the CSI implications of it and what every dealer wants, But how about when you receive a video about your car on the lift and it has no audio with it? None.
Right.
So you're supposed to guess at it yourself, which is guaranteeing for what? The quickest way to get a hold of a dealer is what? Pick up the phone and get put on hold, and nobody answers or calls you back. That's why we're in business, by the way.
Exactly. Hey, let's bring David Securia back in, and let's all have a roundtable on this. I think this is more fun than what we normally do. There he is. All right. Dave, what are you doing with AI and your call center?
Nothing.
Dave, meet Jamie.
Smart man.
Well, I'm talking to Jay Agresta. I bought a couple of cars from him. It's time for him to meet me again.
I'll tell you what we're doing. We do have an AI system that listens to the phone calls, that creates let's say sometimes it creates panic, but it's like, let's say if a customer, we didn't handle objections correctly, are the customers upset, and it sends a message to myself and to my service manager. So we're listening to phone calls that way. It's a system called Clever, but besides that, we don't have a scheduling tool yet or anything. We're doing it the old-fashioned way. Talk to people.
I have a question for you, David, on that. Yeah. Are you actually doing the training on that system, or is it the outside company giving you the grading on the phone calls and saying, hey, this stinks, this is good? Or is it getting some input from you going, you know what, that's not that bad. That's the way we talk in the Northeast. We tell people shut the hell up. That's just the way we talk, right? I'm just wondering because,
it allows you to tailor. It allows you to tailor it to the way that you want it. Yes, it is.
You're in New York, the F word is thrown around, pass me the effing salt. It doesn't mean anything, right? But I can see AI picking up and saying this is a hostile customer, right? So that's what I was wondering, is because I've always, Philly's a little bit different, but the New York area.
Philly is worse. Philly is worse.
No, but see, in Philly, they're always mad. It's true. If they're using it, they're just mad all the time. So in New York, they'll just say, pass me the effing salt. They don't mean anything bad by it. It's just the way it is. So
I gotta say, I think there's a lot of great tools out there, but especially in the luxury segment, people are expecting to speak to someone with real knowledge, right? And at the end of the day, this is hospitality, right? In luxury brand stores, like, you got to get on the phone. You've got to explain it. You've got to communicate, because that's what people are still looking for, right? So we do training on that, right? We're through the OEM, through other channels. It's like, I think a lot of times, like, all of these AI solutions it's gonna be a lost art where people aren't able to communicate. So it's.
I couldn't agree with you more, because you know what? I've always been a firm believer that AI has a place in every industry, And that is to augment the human capital. Remember, AI lacks ethical judgment and it lacks all kinds of emotion, human and otherwise. It's learning, but it is consistent. As I was just telling the guys, I don't know if you had the opportunity to listen, Dave, but service advisors, when they're
John, welcome back. Service advisors not only rely on AI outbound too much. I'm not in service, but my department and the phone picked up by ring 3 or it's someone's ass. Good job, right? It's ring 3 or someone's ass. I love it, John.
It's true though. It's absolutely true. If people picked up the phone, companies like mine would be out of business and AI wouldn't be in the strength or in the position that it is today. But remember, there is some consistencies there. It's open 24/7, 365 days. It never changes. It's consistent. It doesn't take vacations. It doesn't have human resources issues, and it doesn't forget the process. And that is
yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, I think, the place for it is where you can't put a human, at night, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, Christmas, whatever. There's people that'll call up on the phone and make an appointment on Christmas, right? 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock. I mean, I get on the road at 6:30 in the morning. I pick up the phone and call things. They're not open yet. If they had a scheduling mechanism, I would love that when I'm driving. I have time on the road to do that. But I do think the what you both said, and it's what Steve and I have been talking about for a little while, is taking care of those mundane tasks that a human doesn't have to do. It's that busy work, right? It's that job used to be the $10 an hour job that doesn't exist anymore, right? Let's give it to AI. Let it make the outbound phone calls. It will be polite. It will have manners. It can do it completely. And then when you get into a predicament, like you said, Dave, and they need to talk to somebody technical, then that's what the humans are for. But if you can reduce their workload by 30, 40% just by picking off some of the easy stuff, that's where I think that this stuff is really going to play out. But, the last thing I'll say on the AI part is, and it's just vendors in general, and I'm not in the store every day, but I got vendor fatigue. Like I am tired of watching demos. I am tired of being contacted on LinkedIn, being told I need to see this, the latest and greatest, this, that, and the other thing, whatever the case may be. It's enough is enough. I can't even get my job done, let alone watching videos all day long, or demos and Zoom calls. And I think everyone's just looking for a share of the pie. Everyone's looking to drum up their stock. Everyone's looking to, I call it pump and dump, right? The venture capitalists or whatever the case may be. And I think, it's in the business, we just need to slow it down a little bit. And I like your approach, David. I think it's really good, smart.
I also like it because I think that the human capital is so important that people really do, like dealing with humans, but speed converts more appointments, having that information consistent at all times. So a service advisor doesn't necessarily know whether the S550 2018 or has a safety recall, and he doesn't ask the customer because he doesn't want to add another line to the repair order for that, or just generalizations like that for safety recall. Oh, do you want your vehicle appraised? No, I've got a $1,500 customer pay repair order. I don't want you to appraise that vehicle.
We're not giving that up.
Oh,
Well, how about this? When I think about AI, because David, you said this. We listen to the phone calls, right? I have a dealer locally, and they listen for cussing. Did an advisor say a swear word on the phone? And I thought, how about instead of listening, the guy says the F word, why don't we listen to his message? Did he say what he was trained to say? Did he say pass fail? Did he say minimum requirement? And why can't we put the reports together and have the AI listening for the proper sales approach, and then put that report back to the manager, right? How much time would that save a manager versus, whatever nonsense listening to phone calls and all that stuff that we're doing? If we could have the AI just let us know was the proper approach used, that would certainly save a lot of time in that whole arena.
You know what, Steve? AI is never going to make up for a poorly trained staff, right? Or a store with a broken culture, right? Or holding on to, let's say, a toxic employee, right? That stuff, it'll never clean that stuff up for you, right? So, the basic blocking and tackling, making sure that we're updating customers, presenting every single time, setting up a repair plan for a customer, right? In the world of Mercedes, you can have a $10,000 repair order in a blink of an eye. Do we need to make that 10,000 today? Or is it, hey, let's focus on the items that are going to keep you rolling, right? And are going to keep you mobilized and really create a repair plan for customers. And that's where AI will never ever be able to explain it that way and give it with that personal touch. So I'm a firm believer in that part.
I also believe that the future is on blended intelligence. That's, winning philosophies, and the winning dealerships won't be fully automated, but they won't be, fully human either. They're
Correct.
going to have a combination, artificial intelligence for speed, automation for consistency, and experienced people with empathy that have the ability to manage the relationship that's right in front of them.
Awesome.
That is going to be the winning combination for a dealership that has the ability to think through what solution is being presented, how it's being presented. And remember this, no two AI providers are the same.
Well, you know what, Dave, I think we should ask each one of these guys to give us our GM tip of the day, right? What can with all of this said, I'm going to ask David Securia first. I'm blown away by the stuff that you're talking about, especially from triage and the reducing of the cycle time, things like that. Tell our listeners, tell our viewers, what's your tip for them? What would you say to people that are up and coming in the world, maybe, or even GMs out there? How can they make that leap forward like you did? What would you say to them to move that needle like you did? I'm blown away. So if you could share with them some tip like that or an approach, I would love it.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you for your words. Look, I think you need to be passionate about this. That's a real differentiator, right? And a lot of times, and I've been caught in this, where we're spending so much time in the business, you've got to stop and spend time on the business, right? What are the opportunities, right? I have so many takeaways from some of my instructors at the NADA Academy, but I'll never forget finishing my fixed ops week. And they're saying, if there's one thing that you're going to take away from this class, go back and fix your service pricing, your menu pricing. I know, Dave, I've listened to your pods before, and Dave's always talking about that. And you are too, Steve. And it's just like, go back, make sure that we're squared away, make sure that we're making it really easy for our advisors to present it, right? And it's like, it can sound like a daunting task going into your service pricing system, but like when you've got it dialed in, and I'm watching advisors, looking at a 50,000 mile service, it's a yearly service, it's spark plugs, it's engineer filter, and they're just clicking away and kind of like building a shopping cart with Amazon, and then presenting it, and it's really itemized correctly. The customer understands, right? Go back and fix that, right? And I would say the last tip would be, in our world, our models range from $40,000 entry-level Mercedes-Benzes to cars that are $200,000 and above. A lot of times we get fixated on door rates, effective labor rates, and we're fixated on that. I've gotten to the point where I've got a blend going of all kinds of different dollar amounts to kind of tailor it to the entry-level folks. And for the folks who are at the top end that could care less what they're going to pay for, we adjust some things there to align with what the vehicle is worth. And I just go back and really focus on your pricing and do some market studies and see where you're at. That'd be important for everybody to focus.
I brought a guest. She couldn't stand it, and she wanted to be on our show. So everybody has to meet my girl Shelly.
That's great.
Jamie, tell us something that our dealers can take away from your visit. I love having you on our show.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of things that come swimming around in your mind, but the most important one, in my humble opinion, is when you're hiring a new employee, have them make a service appointment at your dealership. Have them call into your dealership and get the taste of the experience for themselves. More importantly than that, why don't you do that yourself as a dealer employee? Why don't you call in and see how easy or how poorly it's being handled today? And then, frankly, call me. I'll fix it for you.
All right, I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Dave Rogers, I got my hands full right here, so I'm going to suggest that you wrap us up with the final GM tip of the day. And Jamie and David, thank you so much for joining us. It was awesome having you on our podcast today. Ivan says, best stop stream. Let's go, Dave.
Ivan Lloyd, what a guy. So I'm going to piggyback on what Jamie just said. You know, a great tip of the day for any GM, any department manager. I don't care what you do, and we've talked about it a lot with our company. Is instead of calling somebody on their cell phone, why don't you call them? Try to get them through the switchboard. Just call the desk, call the main phone number, and just, you know, what I would say is probably frustrate the crap out of yourself by trying to see what your customers go through. Years ago, I saw that Chrysler used to have this thing that it was like, you know, the customer's view of the walking through the dealership through the customer's eyes type of thing. And, you know, I'd say that, you know, what Jamie Rellis said before is the right on. Just pick up the phone, call your dealership, do the landline, and see what your customers are going through. It's a great tip.
I love the mystery shop. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, Dave Rogers, it was a pretty fun show. I love the banter. I love everybody's expertise, right? You know, but I would say to everybody, thank you, all the listeners out there, all the viewers. Thanks for joining us today. Join us every Friday for Fixed Ops Focus streaming live, and tune in this week. We got some special stuff coming up this week on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So I look forward to seeing all of you guys. Dave?
Have a great day. Have a great weekend, everyone. A great weekend. Appreciate you watching.
Thanks, John. Thanks, people.
Party horn. Here we go.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.